The sky burned orange as the sun dipped behind the fields of amber. The world stood still for a moment, hushed by the weight of what was about to unfold. The wind carried the scent of summer through the tall corn stalks that swayed like sentinels guarding secrets. Sheriff Hank Ridley stood by his patrol car, his weathered face etched with years of service and sacrifice, his eyes fixed on the German shepherd at his side. Ranger, his loyal K9 partner, was alert, ears perked, muscles tense, his gaze locked on the narrow dirt path that led into the towering rows of corn. And then, without warning, Ranger bolted into the field, his pores kicking up dust as he vanished between the stalks. What he would find there, what waited at the heart of that endless field, would bring the hardened sheriff to his knees, tears cutting down his cheeks like rivers of memory. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the incredible loyalty of animals, please like this video, drop a comment below, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to our channel, Justice on Paws. This story might just change how you see love, loss, and healing. Hank Ridley had been in law enforcement for over 35 years. A legend in his small Midwestern town, he was known for his no-nonsense demeanor, quick wit, and a heart buried under layers of caution. But those who knew him best, like his late wife, Marlene, understood that Hank's tough exterior was forged by pain. 2 years ago, Marlene lost her battle with cancer, leaving behind a silence in their home so deep it echoed. It was around then that Ranger came into Hank's life, a retired military K9 no longer fit for combat duty but still strong, sharp, and in need of a home. At first, Hank took the dog out of obligation. Maybe it was Marlene's voice in his head, always urging him to do the right thing, or maybe it was the way Ranger looked at him, steady, loyal, and without judgment. In time, their bond became something unspoken but profound. Ranger never needed words. His presence was enough to steady Hank's shaking hands during sleepless nights and pull him from the shadows when grief threatened to swallow him whole. They were two wounded souls, stitched together by quiet companionship. That summer evening had begun like any other patrol shift, routine, quiet, predictable. Hank was heading home early when the dispatch call crackled over the radio, a missing child. 10-year-old Eli Waller, last seen playing hide-and-seek on his grandfather's farm. His mother was hysterical, his grandfather nearly inconsolable. The sun was setting fast, and the cornfield stretched for miles in every direction, an endless maze of green. By the time Hank arrived, dusk had begun to swallow the light. Ranger leapt from the cruiser the moment the door opened, nose to the ground, tail stiff. Hank clipped on his vest and gave the command. Ranger began weaving through the property, sniffing for signs, but the sheer size of the land made the search daunting. Then, at the edge of the cornfield, Ranger stopped cold. His ears twitched. He barked once, a sharp, urgent call, then sprinted into the rows like a bullet. Hank's heart pounded in his chest. He'd learned to trust the dog with his life, but something about the urgency in Ranger's posture, the way he ran without hesitation, felt different. He stumbled after him, calling out, corn leaves slicing at his arms, the earth uneven beneath his boots. But Ranger was gone, swallowed by the corn. Minutes passed. Then 10. Then 20. And just as panic began to tighten its grip, Hank heard it, a whimper. Soft. Fragile. He pushed through the rows with renewed purpose until he stumbled into a small clearing where the corn had been flattened, forming a sort of makeshift nest. There, curled in the dirt, was Eli, his tiny frame trembling, face streaked with dirt and tears. And beside him, lying protectively with his body curled around the boy like a living shield, was Ranger. The dog looked up at Hank, his eyes calm, proud, and full of something more than instinct, something like love. Eli had gotten lost hours earlier and panicked, wandering deeper into the corn. Disoriented and terrified, he'd curled up and cried until exhaustion overtook him. The tall stalks had hidden him from view, muffled his cries. If Ranger hadn't caught his scent, if he hadn't pushed forward with the fierce determination of a creature who knew he was needed, Eli might not have survived the night. Hank dropped to his knees. For a long moment, he couldn't speak. He just knelt there in the dirt, eyes locked on the boy, one hand resting on Ranger's head. And then, without shame, the tears came. Not just for the child. Not just for relief. But for everything, every moment of grief, every silent dinner, every dream Marlene never got to see. It all poured out, baptized by the dog who'd become his reason to keep breathing. Word spread fast. The story of the old sheriff and his canine who saved a boy became local legend. But for Hank, it wasn't about glory. It was about something far deeper, redemption. He began visiting Eli and his family, who considered Ranger a hero and Hank a guardian angel. The sheriff who once thought his best days were behind him suddenly found purpose again, not just in law enforcement, but in life. He started volunteering with the county's animal shelter, advocating for the adoption of working dogs who, like Ranger, had more love left to give. He even opened up the spare room in his home to foster dogs in transition, each one bringing its own story, each one adding another stitch to the healing tapestry of his heart. Ranger remained by his side through it all, aging slowly, still fierce in his gaze but gentler now, as if he understood the gift he had given not only to a child but to a broken man. If this story touched your heart, if you felt something stir deep inside as you read about Hank and Ranger, please leave a comment, like the video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to Justice on Paws. Let's spread these stories of courage, love, and second chances, because sometimes the quietest heroes have 4 legs and never ask for anything in return. And on quiet evenings, long after the sun dips behind the cornfields, you can still find Hank and Ranger walking that same dirt path, side by side, proof that even in a world full of darkness, there's always light where love leads the way.